Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Debbie and the name of my channel is Simply Debbie. Today we are going to continue into the journey that my husband has had to go on in his sickness. I've had two other videos that was before this one. If you would like to catch up on what went on those, I ask you to just go and watch them and subscribe and like and comment on the channels. But today we'll just get started from where we're going to take off today. So, as I've said before, my husband had a place on his neck to start. He got a place on his neck, and he had gone to the dermatology, he has gone to doctors, he got it cleaned out, and, that just kept getting worse. So, my husband continued to keep going to the doctor, but the place finally had grew up on his face. He had another place come up on his face. So, he kept going to the doctor to see what they could do for him because he was in some pain, and still all this time he was working. Like I said, he was working. So the doctors, every time he went anywhere, he went to the emergency rooms and the different doctors, and they said, you just need to go to oncologist, you need to start chemo, you need to get started on that right away, go to Vanderbilt, get signed up. Well, as I said in my other videos before, we had already asked God if that was cancer on him, if it was malignant, and God had told us that it was not. And we were not going to turn from that. So he just finally got where he would quit going. He just quit going because nobody was helping him. Nobody was trying, and anything that they would do wasn't doing any good. So as time went on, as I said, one grew on his face like it was on his neck, and it just kept getting bigger, and he would cover it up with Band-Aids, and he would keep on working and just keep on going. Well, it just got worse and worse as time went on. So he goes to see another person at an emergency room, and they put him in for observation, and they were saying then that he's probably has a overuse of Tylenol, because he was taking quite a bit of Tylenol for the pain. And so they said, that's our diagnosis for him. He's overused Tylenol, needs to go home, and get off that. And, everything will get better when he gets off of that Tylenol. So we said, okay. So we went home. Well, he couldn't take the Tylenol, so he was in really bad pain by then. But he just kept going. He just kept going until finally he said, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. So we go back to that same place. And then they want to say that he has he said his body, the antibodies in his body was attacking his spinal cord, and that it did not know how to shut off. And so at that time when they told us that, I told them, I said, yeah, but when we was here before, you said that it was an overuse of Tylenol. That's what you said when we was here before. Of course, they had to acknowledge that. And I said, so now you're saying it's this. So anyway, they put him on a very strong steroid, which even caused even more problems. So he started the steroids, and then when they gave him a good steroid shot at the hospital that day before coming home, he felt good. He felt like eating again. He said, I feel great. Well, of course, you're on steroids, So they send him home with a prescription. He gets on them, and he gets a little better, gets feeling better. And then, of course, you got to be weaned off of those. And as soon as he was weaned off, then he started feeling worse again. He didn't want to eat again. He didn't want to do nothing again. So at this time, we go back. We go back and say, okay, this is where we're at now. He doesn't want to eat, and he's just not doing anything because he doesn't feel like doing anything. So then at that point in time, they want to tell us that he is having congestive heart failure, and that he needs to limit his food, and that he needs to lose weight. And so they give us a scale. You can get a scale through Medicare. They give him a scale, and he comes home. Well, that scale was the worst thing that they could have gave him, because every bite of food that he put in his mouth, he got on that scale. And when he seen the weight coming off, he wanted to eat less. So, and I kept telling him, you're going to get bad. You're going to get sick if you keep doing this. But every meal he ate, he would go to that scale. He would go to that scale and he would look and see, okay, I've lost weight. Look at this weight I've lost, And he lost quite a bit of weight, quite a bit. When all was said and done, at the end of that, he was down to 120 pounds. And he had a weight of almost 300 pounds at the start of all of this. So, yeah, and you couldn't tell him nothing. You couldn't make him eat. He said, I don't want to eat. It don't taste good. Well, finally, all of that caught up too. So, he had to go back into the hospital, and they kept telling him, you're going to have to take this medication, you're going to take this, and it was just a mess, because now he has diabetes, which was making things even worse, because the diabetes was going crazy. His body, his electrolytes was out of hand. So they put him in, and then from the time that we took him to the emergency room the last time to when they put him in, the man was never the same. They started giving him potassium liquid. Pouring it in him. And he changed. He changed right then. He was like violent. He got violent. And then they was pouring magnesium into him. They said, he's so off kilter, and everything's off. Electrolytes are off. We're going to have to do this, this, and this, and this. And he got very violent. Very violent. And he even got violent with the hospital people. So, they were wanting to come and do tests with him, and he was aggravated, because he was always aggravated, and they just kept pumping that stuff into him, that potassium. And the potassium was the worst, because they just kept pumping that in him, and he didn't want to eat, so then they had him on a feeding tube, and so he was just agitated all the time. So they came one day while he was in the hospital. They came in there and said, well, we're going to take you down for this test right now. It was MRI. And I told them then, I said, if you can wait, it would be best for you to do so, because he's very highly agitated. They just gave him something to calm down, but they didn't want to wait. I said, I'm telling you now, you're making a mistake. So they said, well, we have to go. Okay. So they go, and the next thing, me and my daughter was sitting in the room. Next thing you know, we hear first response called in. I said, that's your daddy right there. I said, I tell you now, he's fighting them. And he was. He fought them to no end. And, we didn't see it, but when he came back, they told us, he said, I do not know how that man is as strong as he is, and how he can fight the way he did. He said, but he fought us with everything. They had to tie him with cords. He had the marks on his arms, and because he was fighting them that bad. And he was never the same. He was never the same, because, they did the MRI. He didn't want to do it. Of course, they had to do it. But he fought them. He fought all of them with everything that he had in him. He fought them. And they just kept pouring that stuff into him. And, finally they sent him home, because, there was nothing they could do. They said, we've done all we can do. Everything looks good on this end. So, and the agitation had calmed down some, so we go home again. Well, still again, things don't get any better. He just keeps on. It's just a continuous keeping on story. But I'll have to go into that with another video, because this video is going to already be long enough. So I just wanted to touch in again on that and just let everybody know we're going to continue on this because there's so much more to tell y'all. So much more. And things that goes on in the hospital that shouldn't go on. And can I tell y'all this? Don't never let anybody go to the hospital. Your loved ones, your children, I don't care who they are. Don't let anybody go to the hospital by themselves because you don't know what they're doing to them. You don't know. And at least if you're there, you have a voice. You have a voice. So don't ever let anybody go to the hospital by themselves. Always be there for them. Always be there, no matter what. And I mean, don't ever leave them. If you have to leave, make sure somebody is there with them. A family member, somebody that will say, no, you're not doing that, until the spouse comes back, or somebody that can, that knows what that person wants. Because all they're there to do is say, well, we're going to try this. Well, no, that's not always the best way. That's not always the best way. Sometimes they try too much and they get you in a shape you can't return from. So I would highly suggest when your loved ones are in the hospital, be there. Be there at all times. Don't leave. If you have to leave, make sure somebody else is there with them. And always make sure you ask them, what are you giving them? Because one time my husband was in the emergency room and they had came and gave him a CAT scan, brought him back up, and then another person comes in there, was fixing to roll him out. And I said, where's he going this time? And they said, he's going down for a CAT scan. I said, no, because he just came up for a CAT scan. And they had to check it. And they said, well, we didn't know. I said, well, it's your place to know. It's your place to know. That's why you get paid to know your business, because you're not supposed to do that. So be there. Be there for them, because they're not in their right mind when they're sick. And they don't know, they would agree to anything and sign anything. So always make sure somebody is there with them, no matter what. And know the medications. Take the medications. Make sure you take that so they know exactly what they're taking and exactly what they're allergic to. Because even sometimes people have been known to have the band on their arm and they still will give them what they're allergic to. And then it's just a bad situation. You can't trust everybody just because you think, okay, they're medical people and they know. No. You know your husband, you know your wife, you know your children better than anybody. And be there. Be there for them. No matter what, always be there. And speak up for them. Doesn't matter. And I know sometimes spouses don't want the other spouse to speak up. Well, at this time, when you're in the hospital, when you're in the emergency room, you have to speak up when they can't. You have to be their voice. You have to. So just always, always be there for them. If you would like to hear more about this journey that we have been on, I ask you to subscribe to my channel and like my channel and comment on my channel, and just keep on coming on and following me with this, and we'll get into some other things too. As I told y'all, this fireplace mantle behind me is fixing to change. I'm going to start decorating early for fall. If you'd like to follow me in that and watch me how I start changing this up, and I'm going to start early because it takes me a little while, and I start decorating for Christmas early too. So if you'd like to be a part of me and watch me turn this into a fall scene, subscribe to my channel and like my channel and comment on it, and we'll go through this together. So until then, I'll see y'all next time. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for the subscribers. And I'll see you next time. Bye.